How many times do I have to repeat myself? Changing the MO of Sadako does not a good Ring film make. Hi guys, so before we get into it, a very quick disclaimer that you'll find all my other Ring reviews in my Ring playlist, and there probably will be spoilers today, and I will feel absolutely no shame in that whatsoever. So this is the 13th of 14 scheduled Ring reviews, so I'm almost at the end now, and let me tell you, I am running on fumes at this point. And I say that despite the fact that I actually kind of enjoyed the previous two films I covered before this. Sadako vs. Kyaku was excellent, actually, and the third American Ring film was certainly watchable, but we're back in the doldrums with this one. This is not very good. These final two Ring films are both on the Japanese side of the spectrum, and obviously I can't speak for the second one yet, but this one, hugely uninspired. And the biggest problem with it is basically what I was hinting at in the prologue. They've changed Sadako's MO again. It didn't work very well when they did this the first time during those Sadako 3D movies, and they don't get any better results this time. So Sadako now has the ability to come out of a monitor at will. There's no more gestation periods between people watching the tape and when they get killed. There's nothing like that, and I don't understand why you would move away from what makes this series what it is. It's bonkers. We've also got a little girl running around who's clearly been touched by Sadako in some way, but I just found the whole affair really tedious to watch. From the first 5 or 10 minutes of this film, I was pretty lost, and even the bits that I did understand, I just wasn't into this story and where it was going. This was directed by Hideo Nakata. He did the first two Japanese Ring films, which are both very good. But then he went on to do the American version of Ring 2, which is dreadful. It's like the Americans said to him, Hideo, come stateside. That magic that you constantly cast upon the Japanese ones, come and bring some of that over to us. But he's actually acted more like a saboteur and just destroyed the American side of the franchise and then gone back home. But you'd have thought that he would be on more familiar ground with a film like this, because it's set in Japan. He's clearly in the past been more comfortable doing the Japanese ones. But no, it turns out that he just went bad at doing this at a certain point, whether he's in America or Japan. And I just think that he's completely washed up at this point when it comes to this. He's got nothing else to say when it comes to Sadako or Ring. The glory days of Ring 1 and 2, long ago. I just think they need to move on from this guy if they're still going to greenlight more Ring films in the future. I'm not even sure what timeline this particular Ring film is meant to be in, so I'm pretty sure I read online that this is meant to follow on from Ring 2, which would make sense given Nakata's involvement. But watching it, I kind of felt like it was more a sequel to one of the Sadako 3D films, mainly because of the little girl angle. But I got lots of mixed messages, in all honesty, watching this as to which timeline we were in. It's like this film just wants to follow on from all the different films and timelines, but it can't commit to one, and the whole thing just becomes an ungodly mess. The film opens with two scenes that we go back and forth between. I didn't really understand what was going on in either of them. So in one of them, there's some rocks on what I call Ring Island. It turns out Sadako has been buried under these rocks in a cave, but now she's out again, which just confused me because I don't remember any previous Ring film that ended with Sadako being buried under rocks, unless there's a Japanese Ring anime out there that covers this. The other scene takes place in an apartment. There's a crazy woman who's locked her girl in a wardrobe, and she's planning to torch the place because she thinks the little girl has been taken over by the devil or something. Then Sadako turns up, rescues the girl, and the apartment goes up in flames anyway, and I'm just thinking, how did we get to this? What is this meant to be following up on? I'm totally lost. I just don't like it. And then when we get into the main plot, we follow a character who's a nurse, and she unwittingly gets involved in all this when the creepy little girl turns up at the hospital, and there's someone else who's creepy as well. And then the nurse's brother gets confronted by Sadako, and he ends up being brainwashed into going to Ring Island for reasons I either can't remember or didn't understand in the first place. It's all very messy. I did like the brother character, though, because he brings a little bit of comic relief to the movie. So he's a YouTuber, and I love it when films use YouTubers or Twitch stars or TikTok stars, because the stereotypes of these people are always exaggerated. It's no different for this guy. So this YouTuber, he's the sort of person who just does daft things for clicks, you know, like throw himself onto a table to break it, but can he do that without hurting himself? You know, just random stupid things. And he's really annoyed in this film because his views for one video have gone down to just 8,000. But I really enjoyed this guy being a prat on video, and I was kind of sad actually when we moved away from it and got back to the actual horror. One thing I definitely didn't like was the depiction of the well in this film. So at one point, a picture of the well randomly comes onto a monitor, and we know that Sadako is about to appear. But I looked at this well and thought, why have they designed it like that? This is the second time, I think, where I've seen a really unsatisfying depiction of the well in these movies. I think the previous time was in one of the 3D movies, but the well here, it's too smooth. It looks brand new, like something that was just coughed up in a factory 5 minutes ago. The well in a Ring film should look old and worn. It should be cobblestoney and have a bit of lichen and moss on it, you know, that kind of thing. I looked at the well in this film. Not only is it not the right look, but it's too small as well. I'll tell you what it reminded me of. It reminded me of those tubes that you get in Super Mario games where you've got to jump in them at the end of the level. As soon as I saw this tube in Sadako, a tune popped into my head, something like did it. I expected somebody to jump into this well and then a little flag to go up a pole at the side of it. That same scene, Sadako's attacking two people in the hospital corridor. For some reason, there's a monitor nearby that allows Sadako to get out, but there's a certain degree of inconsistency with who Sadako goes after and who she doesn't kill, and I just didn't really understand the point of Sadako appearing at this juncture, and I don't get why she just didn't kill both of these women rather than seemingly leave one for dead and the other one just unconscious. It's all very messy. There's another scene where the little girl is crossing a bridge and a woman sees her and jumps off the bridge. She commits suicide, and I'm thinking, okay, I don't like this style of Ring action, but at least I understand it, because we had this same thing with the Sadako 3D films in that, you know, a little girl can act like Damon from The Omen and just make people kill themselves. But it turns out that this scene with the woman throwing herself off the bridge isn't actually real. We find out just a little bit further on that it's actually some kind of daydream that the girl is having. And I'm thinking, what is this? What is going on? Seriously, I don't understand what all these different plot points are. At the end of the film, we end up back at the island. Of course we do, because if a screenwriter is struggling with a Ring film, as the guy behind this film clearly was, why not go back to Old Faithful and return to Ring Island, just because we have to rescue the YouTuber, apparently. But even though this is successful, someone else dies in his place, making the whole venture utterly pointless. Plus, the fact that the nurse has conducted this rescue operation seems to incur Samara's wrath, because she comes back at the end and kills the nurse. Why not just kill her halfway through the movie when she had the chance in the hospital corridor? I just couldn't make sense of hardly any of it, and mostly I was just bored. There's nothing to enjoy in this film. There's not a single moment that scared me. There was nothing about the story that impressed me. There was one little bit of humour with the YouTube angle, and that's about it. I didn't enjoy any of the rest of it. So normally at this point in the review, I would show you my copy of the film I just reviewed, but I don't own Sadako 2019. You can buy DVDs for this, but they are pricey, at least where I am. So when I looked on eBay, I think the cheapest copy I could find was getting on towards £25. from some other country. That would be over $30 in America. So I certainly wasn't willing to pay that. If physical media had been my only means for watching this film, I probably would have skipped this and not done a review, as sad as that would have made me this late in the day, because I've managed to watch all the films up to this point. This film is not easy to find digitally. You can't rent this film in the UK. It's not on YouTube. I found it in the end on a random streaming site called Billy, or Biley, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but it took me a while to find it. But the viewing experience on this website is not great. Like, I had to watch this on my phone. I can't remember the last time I watched a horror film on a phone for the purpose of doing a review. I think Prom Night 3 might have been the last time. But, I mean, Android phones are small anyway. But what made this experience even worse was the fact that the subtitles were chopped off the bottom of the screen, which meant I had to turn my phone into portrait mode and just have the film playing on basically a third of my phone screen. So if we say that this remote control is almost an accurate representation of the size of my phone, probably my phone is slightly smaller, I was only watching it on like a bit of the screen that filled about that much of the phone. It was just the middle bit of the phone basically, and I was squinting to watch it. And possibly the reason why I've been in such a bad mood with this film was the fact that I was watching it on such a small screen. I didn't fully understand everything I was watching. It was a challenge in and of itself just to try and understand the film. Another thing that didn't help were the subtitles. So whoever did the subtitles for this streaming site, I don't think English was their first language, because a lot of the sentences didn't make sense. Like, in one scene, you might get a sentence that's fine, and then the next sentence that comes up will have words the wrong way round, and I'm just looking at it thinking, makes sense, please. Then the next sentence will be okay, and it's just a mixed bag all the way through the film, but my brain was constantly having to stop and do autocorrects for the badly written dialogue, and it's just something else. And also, the stream kept randomly freezing. It wasn't anything to do with my internet, it's just this particular website. It just freezes every now and again. And also, because I watched this film over 2 or 3 sessions, because I couldn't face watching it in one go, the second time that I logged in and I put the film on at the point where I'd left it, I couldn't get the pause symbol off the middle of the screen. So the pause symbol is like two I's or 2 L's, whatever, and this symbol was just stuck in the middle of the screen. I couldn't get rid of it, so I watched about 15 minutes of the film with this bloody pause symbol in the way. So many things just made this one of the most hideous film experiences of my life before we even got to the quality of the movie. But Jesus Christ, I'm glad it's over. Let's get to the bag of terror and see what I'm going to score this. We've got 1 bloody axe. I was tempted to give no axes or half an axe, but given the fact that this film didn't get the best of chances, because I was watching it on such a tiny screen, I'm going to just bump it up to 1 out of 5, but it's barely good enough to get that. This is comfortably one of the worst films in this series. It's a bit of a shocker, and I go into the final film with a little bit of trepidation, but at least that will be the final one, and then I can finally move on. But until next time, cheerio, bye-bye.